Thank you for tuning in to the Black Money Tree Podcast, hosted by entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist Jerome D. Love. We are committed to teaching you how to build wealth so that you can build your community. At the Black Money Tree, our goal is to empower wealth creation and create economic self-sufficiency in order to empower generations to come. Society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never enjoy. Season 1 is powered by Wells Fargo Bank. Welcome to the Black Money Tree Podcast.
Welcome to the Black Money Tree Podcast. My name is Jerome D. Love, your host, and I'm really excited to be here joining you today. And I'm more excited about our mission and our movement to help you build wealth because it's critically important to building our communities. When you look at the African-American community, there's a huge wealth gap. And guess what, folks? We can't wait for anybody else to do anything to save us. It's up to us to build our communities, build our businesses, and support the individuals, the initiatives within our community that we deem important. So that's what the Black Money Tree is all about. We focus on two primary components in areas: entrepreneurship and real estate investment. And I want to encourage each of you to go to the website, blackmoneytree.com, and get the new book, Closing the Wealth Gap. This is a how-to guide that's going to show you how to start building a long-term rental real estate portfolio. That's the foundation and the core of my wealth, and I think it's one of the simplest and easiest ways for more African Americans to start building their wealth, and I'm going to teach you how I did it. So make sure you go to the website, theblackmoneytree.com. We have all kinds of online courses and tutorials, all kinds of stuff to help you build your wealth. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship in a digital space. There are so many opportunities out there, and African Americans and African American women are leading the way. And today I'm honored to have one of the country's top digital minds, in my opinion, who's doing some amazing things that we're going to talk about, Miss Al-Quincia, Celawayne, A Conundrum. Did I say it right?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so very much.
No problem. So now I always like to start out by learning a little bit about our guests. You are doing some amazing things, especially in that digital space. But I want to know, where did that drive, that entrepreneurial hustle come from? And what were you taught as a youth that kind of propelled you to where you are today?
Thank you so much. So I'm completely honored to be here. Let me just say that and start off. I want to give you your flowers because what you guys are doing is tremendous, especially in the two industries that you're focusing on. I want to say thank you so much because you could be lending your services to anything. So educating our people, I want to say first off, thank you very much for what you're doing.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. So for myself, the entrepreneurial drive is sort of a two-part component. I was already naturally creative, as most of us are, right? We come up with solutions and products and things of that nature. But I didn't come from a completely rich entrepreneurial background. I'm going to say that my family did dabble in business and alternative business, right? So not the real more structurally sound, entrepreneur endeavors, but definitely hustle mentality. We'll say that, right? Okay, so at the end of the day, it was already a creative spirit in me, but in terms of the entrepreneurial drive, what really gave me permission to become an entrepreneur was that working several jobs and then moving into management and seeing behind the curtains the mismanagement, seeing that the people that I revered and I thought, oh my God, this guy's a business owner, he's got to be brilliant, he's got to be smart, he's got everything together, right? When you start looking at those P&L statements, and you realize how much of your life you're putting in someone else's hands. That one, they're not going to be transparent with you when the ship is sinking. They'll fire the entire staff and know 6 months, a year before that they were going to let people go. So after seeing that time and time again, what literally gave me permission was that I'm making all these other people money. I can do this for myself. And so that's what gave me the license to do it and the drive.
No, that's very rich. And one of the reasons why we started the Black money tree was to give African Americans power, control. And ultimately, when you control the businesses, when you control the resources, you control the flow of assets, and you have control over your own destiny. So that's amazing. So you started out working in corporate America. How long were you in corporate America? And then when did you make the transition into entrepreneurship?
So honestly, I did a lot of basic service style jobs. I was a cocktail waitress for years because I like the hustle. I like being able to have a little bit more control over my income stream, right? So it wasn't just a set amount. The harder I worked, the more I made. So I went to bartending school, top cocktail waitress. I did that for many years. And then I did go to college and I obtained my degree. And then I kind of fell into a position of management for my best friend. She had a Fortune 500 franchise with edible arrangements. And by default, I sort of wind up managing it reluctantly. Yeah. And I really never thought or positioned myself to be like a numbers girl or a management style type person. And by doing that for 2 years and taking her business from, at the time, there were 61 stores in California, and we would rank approximately 43 to 45. I managed, in both years that I managed, we were number 2. We went from, I believe there was 1,100 or 1,200 stores nationwide. We were about 256 to number 11. So when I saw that I was able to, one, it was a business that I cared about. It was someone that I loved. So I really put my all into it. And then to see that I was able to accomplish those feats, I moved into entrepreneurship for myself. So that was around 2012 that I sort of kind of stepped back. And then 2014, I really fully put the gas on it and started to move towards for entrepreneurship myself.
Now, you're heavy in the digital space. That's a space where you don't see a whole lot of African Americans and certainly not a lot of African American females. Talk a little bit about what drew you to that and some of the, do you meet resistance? Do people look at you sideways when you walk in the room? Like, what do you know? And, kind of looking at you funny. Talk a little bit about that.
So my initial business concept was a brick and mortar concept. And of course, that's very costly, very expensive to enter into. And so trying to be resourceful on that of saying, how am I going to get this funding? Because as you know, we're not really offered funding in droves like that. So especially as a first-time entrepreneur. So a friend of mine suggested that I take it digital. And my question was like, okay, how am I going to do that? Like, how do you take a barbershop digital? So I really had to kind of do a little searching and trying to figure out, like, how could I do this? And then I said, you know what? Let me just offer it as a platform that connects people to the service provider. That way I would be able to scale. It would have nationwide reach instead of being just, location based in Los Angeles. So once I explored that concept, I said, wow, this would work. Website, of course, comes to mind. But then I talked to my cousin. He said, they have apps to build apps. And I said, wait, what? So I explored some options and I got into the easiest entry point, which was a template-based app system. So from there, I started to, of course, build my knowledge because at that time, you could have apps on all 5 platforms, BlackBerry, Microsoft, Amazon, so everything. So learning that and building upon that knowledge, that was in 2016. So of course, as you become an app developer, you get a little bit more educated on it. And so that's what really kind of primed me and pushed me into understanding the advantages of being in the digital space. And in terms of resistance, no, I don't meet a lot of resistance. We have some extraordinary pioneer type women like Black Girls Code who are normalizing, Black women into the digital spaces. But I do get the kind of shock and awe, especially now that I'm doing something completely innovative that's never been done. Then it's kind of like, okay, wait a minute. What is this little Black girl doing, right? So that part is coming now, but I welcome that.
So we're going to talk about the virtual mall, but before that, let me give you an example, and you tell me if this is where you are. So my background is real estate. I'm a realtor. I'm a broker. I help people sell houses. I also own my own houses that I rent out. I also build houses. Now, when I tell people I build houses, sometimes they think about me with a hammer in my hand hitting some nails. Now, I've been around it enough. If push came to shove, I probably could jump in and do some things, but that's not what I do. I understand it and I oversee the process. From your
Right.
perspective on the technical end, is that kind of where you are? Are you the actual one that's doing the coding, and or you just understand it enough to oversee the process and make sure it's implemented?
Right. So you and I, kindred spirits. Like at the end of the day, I'm a facilitator, right?
Okay.
Now, fortunately for us, technology has moved to the point where I could technically be a website designer without having to code because the systems are such where it's so template based that you don't really have to necessarily get behind and build from scratch, but I am able to do the edits and the modifications as needed. So I'm utilizing platforms and systems that already exist and just taking that very ease access and then building up from there. So yes, you're exactly right. No, I'm not with the hammer and nails, but you'd be shocked because what I've learned about technology is that a lot of people get too teched out, right? So then it just becomes like this entire tech, and spec. They forget the human component, that there are humans that are using these digital interfaces.
Yeah.
But if you don't make it user friendly, if you don't take it to like bones and just straight down to it, you can have the most teched out, extraordinary thing, but no one's going to use it.
Yep.
So I lend my people skills more so in understanding the customer's journey, understanding the graphic user interface, the ease of that. And that's going to put me a little bit more ahead of some people who are, of course, quite code from native, and don't really understand that component.
Yeah. You know, my other hat that I wear is the president and founder of the Texas Black Expo. So we do the largest African-American empowerment festival in the state of Texas, and that requires us to raise money from sponsors. And a lot of times people ask, how were you able to raise so much money, or how do you do it? And often I tell them, at the end of the day, while the company's writing you the check, you are selling to individuals within that company. It's about having relationships. Now, you got to understand what the company is trying to accomplish, and you got to understand that the person that's overseeing the money, it needs to make sure that the company accomplishes its goal. So if you can package and give them a product that's going to help them to reach their goals, make them look good in front of their bosses, and help the company reach their goals, that's what it's about. You're not selling to the organization, you're selling to the individual. So understand what drives the individual. So now, to the Black Virtual Mall. Let's talk about it. Talk about the Black Virtual Mall. Explain exactly what it is.
Okay, so excited. This is my baby. The Black Virtual Mall essentially was definitely a solution for the Black community before it was anything else. Now, in terms of what it is, it's a complete immersive one-stop shop for Black businesses. So at the end of the day, anybody can shop, of course, but if you are a single sole owner, you must be 100% Black owned. If you have a partnership, then yes, you can be 50% Black owned. So it is a revolutionary marketplace in the sense that we're giving our tenants the ability to differentiate and stand out in ways that normal marketplaces do not. So some of our key differentiators, for example, is the graphic user interface. So when you come to it, it has a very Sims type feel. So you get that futuristic feel, but you don't have all of the nuance of, okay, I have to create an avatar and dress my avatar and learn how to walk my avatar, right? So you have the ease of having that feel, but it's very intuitive. It's a very, click screen and action. So that's one of our differentiators, is the overall look of the mall. Secondly, we have traffic generators like the movie theater. So we have a movie theater, just like you would have at the mall, and it boasts free content, information, educational, and entertaining content. And then we're the first mall, virtual, Black or otherwise, to have an operating food court. So you can actually go to the food court. You can go to the food court. You can click onto the restaurant and then use the existing service that you already use, like an Uber Eats or a Grubhub, and have your food delivered to you. So just like the mall, you go to the food court, you can grab your bite, then you can go and check out a movie, or you can do what we want you to come do, which is shop. So we have 3 tiers of shopping.
So let me put it in physical terms and then explain it in virtual terms. So if I go to the mall, I'm going to the movie, I park my car, I walk in through the entrance while I'm going to the mall, I pass this shop, I pass the hat store, and then I say, I'm going to purchase. how does that work? If I know Bad Boys 2 or 3 or 4, whichever one the last one was, is playing at the Black Virtual Mall, I log in, I click to watch the movie, and before that, ads pop up, or prior to that, I have to see certain ads, or how does that work in a digital space? Does that make sense?
I'll
Okay.
explain the journey, but we have not leveled up to licensing Bad Boys 2. So we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
We're doing independent
Okay.
film.
Okay. All right.
Let's establish that. So that journey that you described, it's as easy as one click. Because when you open up the blackvirtualmall.com, you'll see the little people walking around and you'll see the cars parked. You click and you zoom right into the lobby. So see how we just cut your traffic time down, right? Just a few seconds. So as soon as you get there, you're in the lobby. And then to the left, you'll see the movie theater. To the right, you'll see the food court. You click the movie theater, the screen pops up, and then it says, okay, hey, watch free content. And then you have the categories of what you want to watch. And it's just that simple. You click and you press play. So it's that simple for you. Mm-hmm.
Can you interact with the people in the mall?
Now, there is a question and answer section. There are chat sections as well. So you're not going to actually walk up to a person because the avatars are really just for aesthetics. So it's not you putting on an avatar. They're just kind of walking around.
Okay, gotcha.
So you have all of the, neat components, but when it comes down to it, we have to think about usage. So overall, our people who are coming, it's really wonderful to see those things, but they're coming for convenience. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that it's a very simple process, that a person can just come in, log in, enjoy the graphics and everything, but they can shop and they can do that as soon as possible without having too many different barriers to participate.
Now, let me ask you this. I started the Texas Black Expo, and you would think there are certain people that say, these minorities, they always asking for handouts. They're not doing anything for themselves. They need to empower themselves. I'm a black man. I started a black organization that's designed to help black people. And guess what? We get pushback. Every year we get emails. What if we started a white expo? That would be racist. Those types of comments. And every now and again, I will engage them. I'll say, hey, well, I wonder if you're the same people that's voting against programs to help black people, but when we do something to help ourselves, you have a problem. Talk about your experience. Have you had any negative feedback because it's the Black Virtual Mall?
I didn't know you wanted to go there, but okay.
That's where we going today.
Go on there. I'll just give you a slight little background. So I've been on Instagram since 2012.
Yeah.
My nickname, it was my personal page. It was never a brand or a personal brand or page or anything like that. It was just my personal page. And my nickname was the Clapback Queen.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I am very well acquainted with the racist trolls who exist merely to trigger us and throw us off center emotionally. I have dealt with them for over a decade. So I'm really, really familiar with their tactics, right? Now, I've stopped engaging them in the way that I used to. I used to exist to drag them, okay? That's what I did. And I was nearly a professional at it, okay? So at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I cannot lie, right? It was really fun. But I'm also a solutionist. So I'll get to the point of saying, okay, we've engaged them. We've tried to educate or re-educate them. This is pointless. I don't even want to focus on them anymore. Let's just focus on us. And so when I returned to Instagram and then I had a business focus, this is what I decided. We're going to focus on business and self-serving. We're not even going to worry about what they're doing. I actually got far less trolls initially, right, that would come and try to provoke me. But then, of course, when you drop the Black Virtual Mall, you get well, what if this was a white mall? And what if this was this? And what if this was that? So what I do now is I just sort of hit them with the numbers. So I'll say, okay, well, I exist to primarily service Black-owned minorities who have the largest discrepancy in terms of help. For example, the billions and billions in PPP loans that were issued, 83% of that funding went to white-owned businesses, 2% went to Black-owned businesses. Do you think that I should be lending my services to white-owned businesses? That shuts that down real quick. So it's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
When you really come with the real numbers, like, okay, so on average, white-owned businesses receive over $136,000 in funding. Black-owned businesses receive less than $34,000 in funding. Do you think you need more help from me? Do you think that? So that really shuts that down. So if they even come and try to pretend to be I'm progressive, you know what I mean? I'm not racist or anything. I just wanted to know. That shuts that conversation down. So yes, I have definitely gotten the, what if it were a white-only mall? And what if it were this and what if that? And I will hit them with that when I have time. But other than that, we don't even acknowledge them anymore. We just move forward.
You know, one of the tactics that they've tried with us is they typically try to go after our sponsors. So when we started in 2004, it wasn't blogging and Facebook and some of the things that are out there now. But so one of our partners is a local NBC affiliate. They run stories about us. And you can now clearly see it. Whenever they run a story, you have the people posting their comments. I can't believe you would support such a racist institution and this, that, and the other. They'll go after our grocery sponsor and some of the others. But luckily, we have some very progressive individuals in Texas that's at the helm of a lot of these corporations, and they kind of shut that down. And just FYI, I saw an interview that you did where you discussed that, but I wanted to have that discussion on the Black Money Tree podcast because
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the things that makes me less vulnerable to that is that understanding, number one, I'm fully self-funded.
Yep.
There's not a government dollar that runs through my hands. So at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. Secondly, before you try to cancel me, please make sure that I have a subscription. So if you're not my target audience, and this is the permission I want to give everyone, you have to understand something. The people who are complaining about you, they're not even your target audience.
Yep.
They don't even shop with you. Once you really understand that, you get to a Dave Chappelle level of saying, if you stop shopping with me, it does not affect my bottom line anyway.
Yeah. That
takes away their power. So when I have people to come and say to me, this is bias, I say, yeah, it is. And what are you going to do about
it? No, I like
that's the real, that's, so even if it is, what are you going to do about it? And then that's when they're forced to realize, I really don't have any control. Who am I going to go complaining to? Who, you know what I mean? So It's this pseudo control, and we just have to get away from thinking that they have power that they don't.
Now, while I 100% agree with you, the only thought that I'm going to throw out to you, during COVID, our organization, Black Expo, kind of morphed. We weren't doing the expo anymore. I created a program called We All Eat. It's a program that provides food for individuals that are experiencing food insecurity by using local restaurants. So it's an economic stimulus for the restaurants, but it's food for the individuals. We were funded $12.6 million from Fort Bend County to facilitate that program. Of course, that's not all of our money. That money, most of it goes to the restaurants. But it was the We All Eat program. That's Fort Bend. So while one of the things, like you said, with the PPP loans in Houston, it floods when all the disaster money comes out, they can never find qualified African-American businesses. So it all goes to non-African-Americans. But because we were Texas Black Expo, we have a track record in the community. We were at the helm. This isn't a black program. We had, I think, about 28 restaurants in the program, maybe 12 to 14 are black. So we made sure that a good amount of them were black, and because we have the network. So when you do the math, 28 restaurants divide 12.6 million by that, they got a tremendous economic stimulus.
Right.
We get a admin percentage off of that. And so it's giving us cash. Now we were able to sponsor the Urban League event, the Chamber of Commerce event, a lot of other organizations. Now, my point is, had this program been the Black We All Eat program, we probably wouldn't have gotten funded. But we made it kind of universal, and we've been able to have that same impact in the Black community, probably more. I've actually told people, I wonder sometimes, we've been doing this for up to 20 years now, and I feel like in the last year and a half of running this program, we've probably made a greater impact in the community than we did for the last 18 years, because we had actual dollars that we were putting in the hands of individuals that looked like us. They were able to hire people that looked like us. We then had resources to provide grants. We gave out $40,000 to grants to small businesses. We do programs, like I said. So that's just a thought, but I'm totally with you. I commend you and what you're doing. Now, pardon my ignorance a little bit. I got one other question for you. In terms of the virtual mall, metaverse, to me, that kind of sounds like that's kind of merging together, or do you have a metaverse component, or how would you view the two?
Well, the metaverse, prior to the term being sort of colonized, it's already existed. It had been in existence for years. Decentraland has been around since I think 2015. So this is a concept, and the word and even the terminology has been around for years. The metaverse is sort of the enhanced version of the internet.
Okay.
Right? And it's really one of the things where you're saying, okay, there are certain components that you need to participate in the metaverse. This is a virtual reality platform. So for example, right now you need headsets and Oculus headsets that allow you to have the virtual reality experience. So it's really just kind of taking what you're doing right now, which is what we call like Web 3.0, and then enhancing that for that particular experience. So it's really it's a thing where someone says, okay, do you want to upgrade your environment to make it integrated with what we know as the metaverse, so that people can use it and be a part of that immersive experience? Now, I look at the metaverse like I look at everything. It is definitely going to happen. In terms of business and scalability and reach, you have to make that decision for yourself to say, okay, who is my primary customer and what are their pain points in terms of entering or participating in this space? Oculus headsets are approximately $300 right now. So if my target audience is the Black community who has the least disposable income, why would I put that contingency on experiencing my product?
Yeah.
Now, as the tech enhances and the price comes down, then yes, you click the switch and you get on, right? You're like, okay, now we're going to focus primarily on real virtual reality experience. But until that point, it's kind of too early to entry, right? So you had the .com bubble, but what people don't really realize is that, were they right? 100%. Everyone who told you e-commerce is going to be the thing, everyone's going to be shopping online, they were right. But they were about 20 years too early.
Yeah.
So they invested really, really hard before the majority of people had a personal computer.
Yep.
So I'm looking at it in the same way. No, it's not that I don't take it seriously, but for my bottom line and my customer base right now, it is not my main focus. I'm ready for it when we get to that point. But for right now, my primary focus is centered about being real in virtual reality and making real money in virtual reality. Okay. So
yeah.
until that time,
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, running a business requires money, requires capital. You have created, I believe, an app or a platform that helps people in raising funds. Talk a little bit about that.
So I have an app development company, right? I have first generation apps that provides app services. On my personal app, I have, for free, a funding section. My funding section is a section that I've curated to help you find funding, which is in the vein of venture capitalists that have a minority focus, say women-based crowdfunding. So it's a variety of sources that are targeted, like I fund Black founders, I fund Black women, things like that. Now, I have not created those platforms, but I have them all curated so that you can easily access those funding opportunities that I vetted myself to say, these are credible, fundraising sources, and it's everything from banks to credit unions to crowdfunding. So it's a variety of funding sources for people that I've curated on my app.
So where is the app? What's the app? How do we find it?
Yes. So it's A Conundrum. I'm trying to be consistent. So the app is A Conundrum, and it's in the Apple Store and it's in the Google Play Store, and it's absolutely free. And there's a ton of free resources there. I even have one of my proudest features is a business buddy matcher. So by me, offering business advice for years, one of the main things that people ask for is mentorship. And as you know, you probably get hit up all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, you mentor. And there's only one of you, right?
Yeah.
So what I encourage people to do is to kind of look to the left and right and barter. There's a lot of people who are highly educated and have skills that you may not possess. So I have created like a Tinder for Black entrepreneurs. So you can go on and say, okay, I'm great at accounting, but I suck at social media management or social media creation. And then you can have your skill set, what you're looking for, and then get paired with another entrepreneur.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. So in closing, let me allow you a couple minutes. Give 1 or 2 points to an individual, African American, anybody wanting to get in business that's having trouble. What's your words of encouragement? What's the 1 or 2 steps that you would share in terms of to start a business and be successful?
Well, the first question I would ask you is, why are you trying to become a business owner? I think that there has been a narrative and a culture pushed on people that you have to own a business, and it's become almost trendy at this point, right? Where everyone feels this pressure to be a boss. So the first thing I would say is if you're facing challenges is you may be feeling a pressure to participate in a system that you might not necessarily be ready for, or it may not be ready for you. So the first thing I would say is, one, why are you doing this? That's the first thing. If it's just simply to make money, or is it simply because it's something that you want to give yourself freedom and autonomy, or is it purpose driven? But first, find out your why. When you find out your why, then understand your target audience. Who are you trying to service? Every entrepreneur has one fundamental direction or directive. It is to provide a solution. Mm-hmm. That's it. It does not matter what you do. At the end of the day, we provide a solution. Someone has a problem. Now, sometimes that problem looks like a need or a want, but at the end of the day, you have to provide that solution for the person. So, are you the person to provide that solution? A lot of times we come up with bright ideas. I may have something that's ingenious for the exercise and fitness category, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the person who should be pushing that thing, right? So there's different ways to enter into business. Sometimes you can be of service by lending your talents. If you do HR, you can maybe get equity in a company and a startup, and then you can start to participate in business. So if you're facing challenges, it's definitely for a reason. Sometimes it may be that you're feeling a pressure. Sometimes it may be that you're in an environment that necessarily you shouldn't be in. Sometimes it's that you may, let me see, how do I put this gently? Sometimes, because I don't like to crush people's dreams. You know what I mean? I'm not the door. But sometimes it's really just not for you.
Yeah.
Because there's so many layers to being an entrepreneur. It's not simply a great idea. Without execution, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's not, so there's a lot of layers, but the people that I find who want to get into business, they really don't have a problem. And if they do, they solve that problem. And maybe that's the vetting system to help you understand if this even is for you. Yep. Because if you can't solve your problem first, how are you going to solve other people's problems?
That's magnificent. You know what I mean? I love it.
That would be, thank you. That would be the best advice.
I never thought of it that way. I mean, but I do tell people a business exists to solve a problem and meet a need. But the way you just put it, if you have the problem yourself and can't solve it, how are you going to solve it for other people? But that makes just so much sense. So this has been a wonderful discussion. Before we go, let me give you a minute. Talk about where they can get more information on the Black Virtual Mall, follow you, handles, anything upcoming that you want to plug right quick. This is the time. So go ahead and tell us where we can find you.
Thank you so much. So I believe in simplicity. theblackvirtualmall.com. That is where you can get all the information. You can sign up for the mall. You can experience the mall. Everything is there for you. Myself personally, A Conundrum, aconundrum.com. That's where you can see everything that I'm doing current event-wise. You can download the app. So in terms of what I'm doing now, I'm proud to say that March 1st, I will be launching the Black Virtual Convention Center.
Wow.
So if you want to put on an event, like
the Black Expo. Yeah.
Yes. And I actually had that last year in February. So if you are going to host a conference and you're looking for a virtual platform, I have now put together a way for you to do that. Simple, easy. We do everything for you. You can host a 10-day virtual conference on a tier level performance with a tier 1 pricing. So if you're interested in that, you can also go to aconundrum.com and you can now sign up. There's very limited dates because we're only doing this 15-day cycles. So definitely look into that. That's going to be the next thing. It's going to be a game changer. So I'm leveling the playing field for people who are needing to get into virtual event spaces as well.
Well, thank you so much, Al-Quincia. It's been a pleasure having you, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the Black Money Tree Podcast. So many times when we look at starting a business, we think of the barbershops, the restaurants, the t-shirt shops, or the record label. But there's so many other opportunities, particularly in the digital space. Don't get left behind. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and we're really excited about what we're doing with the Black Money Tree Podcast. Make sure you go to the website, get some of our books, go through some of our educational courses, because it's going to help you to learn new systems of building wealth, which will ultimately help us to build our community. Thanks for tuning in and joining us for another episode of the Black Money Tree Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Black Money Tree Podcast. Don't forget to like and share this video. And if you want more content like this, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you next time.